A very good afternoon, one and all. On behalf of Jyoti Institute of Technology, Department of Civil Engineering, I, Mr. Ganeshyar, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, heartily welcomes all the participants and also Dr. Pradeep G. Siddeshwar Sir for the last session of Day 6 AICTE IST sponsored 1 week online refresher program. Now I request Dr. Madhusudan Sir, HOD Department of Mathematics, to give a brief introduction about the speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Dr. Madhusudan, heading Maths Department, Jyoti Institute of Technology. So it gives me an immense pleasure in introducing my guru, Dr. Pradeep G. Siddeshwar sir, to this event. Here is a brief introduction about Dr. PGS sir. Dr. Pradeep G. Siddeshwar pursued his master's from Kuvempu University in the year 1980. He then pursued his Doctor of Philosophy in the domain Fluid Mechanics from Bangalore University in the year 1986. He served as the chairman, Department of Mathematics, Central College, Bangalore University from 2013 to 15. He published a book in the area of mathematical methods, modeling, and simulation in the year 2015, and there are many such publications to his credit. Dr. PGS sir has won many awards and recognitions. To name a few, visiting professor, Harbin Institute of Technology, Shenzhen, China during 2014 and 19. Visiting professor, National Taiwan University, Taipei, Taiwan during March 10 to 17, 2019. Elected as invited speaker for the prestigious Professor P.G. Bhatnagar Memorial Lecture at the 83rd Annual Conference of the Indian Mathematical Society to be held at Sri Venkateshwara University, Tirupati during December 12 to 15, 2017. TÜBİTAK Visiting Professor Researcher Fellowship, Turkey 2012, Fellow National Academy of Sciences 2012, Visiting Researcher University of Nottingham 2010, Royal Society Incoming Fellowship London 2007, Sir C.V. Raman Award, Channa Award from the University of Windsor, Canada, Indian Mathematical Society Prize 1996, Young Scientist Award 1992, President of India Award 1983. He is a member of different professional bodies like ISTAM, ISM, FR, Indian Meteorological Society, Bangalore Chapter, Central College Mathematical Society, and many more. He has guided 23 PhD students, and 2 of them are currently working. His achievements are not limited to India, but also in the other countries. His visits abroad through scholarships and fellowships, to mention a few: Eminent Senior Researcher Fellowship for Collaborative Research Work at the Shizuoka University, Japan, 2015, TÜBİTAK Fellowship, Turkey, 2012, Shanghai Jiao Tong University Research Fellowship, 2007, and many more. He has been invited as a speaker to name a few countries like Taiwan, West Indies, China, Hawaii, USA for collaborative research works. He has many research projects to his credits, and the list of funding agencies are ISRO, DST, UGC, and many more. He has an international research collaboration across the globe. He has held many administrative positions, namely Director of Planning, Ministry and Evaluation Board from 2016 to till date, Chairman LIC Committee, Bangalore University, and many more. He has evaluated more than 35 PhD theses from India and abroad. Importantly, Dr. PGS sir has many contributions to the Bangalore University. To name a few, he was an instrumental in implementing mathematics practical components using FOSS tools in undergraduate and postgraduate programs of the university. He was instrumental in bringing Centrix telephone facility in the Bangalore University. He was instrumental in suggesting to the pre-university board to introduce mathematics lab components. He has published 174 papers in various national and international journals, and there are 28 papers in proceedings too. Over 150 invited lectures and keynote addresses have been delivered in national and international conferences, symposia, seminars, and workshops. Dr. PGS sir profile runs for pages. I have tried to give you all an insight to what sir it is. I welcome you, sir, for this event. And also I thank our principal, Civil Engineering Department, the event coordinator, Dr. Sri Keshava, for giving me this opportunity to introduce my teacher for this event. Thank you, sir, and once again welcome you.
Sir, you can start the session, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Matsudan, for the kind words. Thank you, Keshav. Thank you. I thank the principal and the management of Jyoti Institute of Technology for this opportunity once again to speak to you. So as announced, I shall be speaking on as announced earlier, I shall be speaking on quality of, I'm sorry about this, quality of engineering higher education through NEP implementation. So that is the talk I am going to give today. I shall restrict myself to 60 minutes or maybe a little more than that. But I think more importantly, we need to have a question and answer session, which we shall definitely have towards the end of the talk. NEP, as you know, the National Education Policy was given the cabinet approval on 29 July last year, 2020. And it has a lot of repercussions. It has a lot of ramifications. It has a lot of impact on higher education, not just higher education, primary, secondary, and higher education as well. And basically, the main idea of this particular national education policy is to give an out-of-the-box solution to the problems that the Indian education system is currently facing. It's going to be game-changing. That's what people are saying. It's going to be transformative. It's going to be reformative, whatnot. There are many expectations from this new education policy, and some even go to the extent of saying that this national education policy will ultimately be adopted the world over. So because what has happened is, in coming out with this particular document, the pertaining to NEP, consultation was held right from the panchayat level to the parliament level. Thousands of people were involved, and the consultation was enormous. Ultimately, when the document was brought into some forum, people also solicited the opinion of the cross section of our society. The stakeholders, most importantly, were consulted. Their views were sought. The views of the parents were sought. The views of educationists were sought. The views of policy makers were sought. Then NGOs and everyone, even for example, the opinion of the industry was also sought. Because what was the intention? The intention was to have a perspective from many different sides. So it is a 360-degree document which has inputs from all directions. Okay, so that's what you have. So what is it that we see in the Indian education system today? If you see some premier institutions, you see most of the students, they graduate from here, from say IIT or NIT or NICER, ICER, and all these good institutions, some top class universities as well. They ultimately land in say the European countries, top universities there, for example, Cambridge or Oxford, and also many universities in the US. Now, the fact is, if you see the standing of some of the universities, except perhaps the topmost few, you'll see that the ranking may be much less than even our IITs. Why are our IITs not attracting then our own children for, say, a master's program? Undergraduate program, of course, they are attracting. But for a master's program, you see that for many of them, the first choice is to go abroad. They might join lesser universities in the US, but they still prefer to go to the US. So why is this happening? This is happening because because we have not made it attractive, we have not made it relevant, we have not made them job ready, we have not made them immediately employable, and that competitive spirit which needs to be there in an engineering student, we have really not bothered in seeing to it that that spirit is enhanced, and the qualities that an engineer should have in terms of placement and other things, we really don't give importance much to it. So now what is the change scenario that we are wanting to see? The change scenario that we are wanting to see is, at the extreme, we want to see that students from abroad come into India. We want to see teachers from abroad come and join our universities. We want to see industries from abroad collaborating with our academic institution. We have that very high goal through the NEP program. The expectations are very high, and each one of us has a role to play insofar as the implementation of NEP is concerned. NEP is a massive document. National Education Policy is a very, very massive document, thousands of pages. There are a lot of things to read there and assimilate and bring it into effect. But most importantly, the success of this program really depends on me, you, and everyone else to see that this is implemented in letter and spirit. There are a lot of challenges, no doubt. One of them being how to really bring in this the NEP program, how to actually have the national education policy in, for example, a college like yours, how to actually implement it. What are the difficulties involved? How should we prepare ourselves? What is the institutional restructuring that is required? Do we need to consolidate something? Do we need to, for example, change many things? Does it mean that many of us are going home? So these thoughts are there. So we shall look into the various aspects of this NEP implementation as and when I come to that. One thing is, insofar as implementation of NEP is concerned, everything remains the same. Say 70% of it is the same, or 80% of it is the same. The delivery differs. Okay, so far, if someone talked about engineering education, the talk would be like this. For example, I am a civil engineer. I would study maximum number of civil engineering subjects, but I would require, for example, a good knowledge of mathematics. So my mathematics learning would go up to the fourth year, and my physics and chemistry maybe one semester. One semester, and I might have certain other things. For example, Constitution of India, then environmental science, and so many other mandatory things. Now, what the education did not involve was things which I as a student would have loved to do. See, when we want to become a complete human being, it's not just doing a degree from in a particular branch and excelling and getting a good job. It is much more than that. We should be good human beings. We should imbibe many things that are useful to the society. So all these things comes about by having some foundation programs, by having some knowledge systems of the country, by having things Indian, in addition to things that is which we normally associate with countries abroad. So we need to prepare a roadmap, and that roadmap, how do we prepare from the point of view of an institution? So what is the expectation from NEP? That is very, very important. See, the NEP envisages that a level playing field is provided to everyone in the country, whether it is rural side or urban side, whether it is big city or a small city, whether it is a remote village or not so remote village. Everyone from every nook and corner of the country must have a level playing field, must have equal opportunities, okay, and that should pave the way for homogeneity. Okay, so homogeneity is what is aimed at, and that is possible only when we understand what is going to happen. Okay, all this can be implemented well only when we know what is going to happen. So what is definitely going to happen is, I as a student, I'm going to join Jyoti Institute of Technology, for example, to do a, for example, a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. I am going to take some specified number of credits. We'll not worry too much about how many credits to complete and so on. The spirit of NEP is important. I shall speak mainly about that. So when I choose to study, for example, a Bachelor of Engineering in Civil from Jyoti Institute of Technology, and suppose I ultimately graduate out of that, then definitely 50% of the engineering courses related to civil I would have done from the Jyoti Institute of Technology, and the credits associated with that would be credited in my academic bank of credit. My academic bank of credit is a record of all the credit courses that I have taken. The credit, I mean, it will have all the information. What are the credit courses pertaining to civil that I have taken? That's the major. What are the credit courses that I have taken apart from that? What are the skill improvement programs that I have undertaken or I have been trained for? So that will be a window to my personality. Everything about me would be known as a result of that. Now, how do we as an institution really gear ourselves up in doing all this? See, one thing for sure, we cannot be teaching the way we have been teaching so far. The flexibility in the system is such, the children also know this, they have been reading this. I have students in Christ University coming to me and asking me whether they could have a syllabus that is, for example, different from their friends. So that is the extent of flexibility that you have. The syllabus, the curriculum, what is it that you see in your college today? You see a civil engineering curriculum which is static, that does not change. At the most, you might have some special papers which might change towards the end of the BE program. But what is it that the NEP envisages? The NEP envisages a curriculum designed by the student, chosen by the student. The teacher has the flexibility to offer a course. For example, I say there are 4 units in my paper, and 3 units say are for the general presentation to the students, and 1 unit, if I wish, I can have an entirely different curriculum for each one of them. That could be, for example, through a project. I can make them do some group activities. I can make them do some small projects. I can make them associate with an industry, or I can even propose to an industry that this is a proposal that we are making to your industry, and if it is acceptable to you, we could start something like a startup thus. Okay, so something like that. The curriculum is going to be very, very dynamic. That is for sure. So we have to gear ourselves up to that. Now, another thing that can come out of the NEP is critical thinking. Okay, so critical thinking is a very, very important thing. So as I mentioned, when I came to your institution last time, I was mentioning that being an engineering institution, every engineering department must think of designing an equipment that relates to their department. There is no fun in making use of equipment that we, for example, get from get from places and use them and show, train the students to learn about it. What is important is, can we, for example, design our own equipment? Can we really develop a sort of instrumentation center wherein such things can be designed? Can we have, for example, at least 1 instrument designed in a semester or in a year? And ultimately, when we plan well, when we think well, I think we could have an entire laboratory filled with instruments that were designed by the department itself. So this is what NEP would like to facilitate insofar as the departments are concerned. And there are several things. Now you should know that the rolling out of NEP has already started in a way, okay, because we are already hearing about NEP, but it's a long way to go. Possibly the impact of the implementation of NEP, we are going to see, for example, say in 10 years time, and that is provided we implement everything in right earnest. Okay. Now the goal of the NEP is to realize the full human potential. So how is that possible? That is possible only when we have holistic education. That is possible only when we promote critical thinking. That is possible only when we promote, for example, experimentation. We promote innovation, for example. So, well, when the Prime Minister speaks of Atmanirbhar program, Make in India, for example, that is what that is what the Prime Minister means, perhaps, of creating full human potentials by ensuring that each one of them thinks that he is sort of Atmanirbhar in whatever he does. So the promotion of national development through education is what is being envisaged, and it is definitely beyond the teaching learning experience that we are getting in our classrooms. Now, if you see everything in great detail, one thing becomes certain to us, that there is plenty of autonomy that is going to come. Okay, there is plenty of autonomy that is going to come. I, as a teacher, I want to devise my own curriculum. I can do it. I as a teacher, I want to devise some new experimental procedures, which is different from what my colleague does. I should be able to do that. So there is a lot of autonomy coming to the teachers. That is the reason why one of the members of the NEP committee, policy document preparation committee, said that not only student is king, but teacher is also king. Not only teacher is king, the institution is also king. So that is what is planned for everyone in the days to come. Now, the expectation is quite a lot, and the expectation of what NEP might bring to us is quite a lot. But we should also remember that we have a lot to do insofar as NEP implementation is concerned. If you take, for example, the case of, for example, say examinations, you can make it very, very innovative. For example, you can, through some means, have an individual question paper. This is going on in some institutions, but it is going on in a very limited way. Now, you just think of this, how much the students struggle to write an exam at the end of the semester, write an exam for 3 hours, and how difficult it is to condense everything and put it down in those 3 hours. Why not have an examination of the student periodically in the entire semester? So that is what is called as continuous internal assessment, and the student learns something, so he is tested on what the extent to which he has learned something, and the marks that he gets for all such things that he does, they all add up, and the cumulative total would be the one which he gets for what he has done. And that is so far as evaluation is concerned. Then we all know that today's children, they like technology, they like a lot of group activity, they like a lot of innovative things.
Sir,
So
excuse me, sir.
yes,
Sir, slides change ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದೇ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಇದೆ.
slides change ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ.
Okay, sir. Okay. Right, sir. Sorry to disturb you, sir.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was talking to you about how these things are going to change. And so the children would love something like this. They would like to have a group activity, for example, what to call as projects, but innovative projects. Okay, projects which would really make them think, not the projects which many of them do. They simply repeat from one college to another or from one year to another. So that is uninteresting. So tomorrow I would go to engineering only if I'm interested in engineering. That is what is going to happen tomorrow. Okay. And another most important thing is there is going to be a lot of corrections happening. What do you mean by corrections? Monitoring and correction is going to happen. Okay. Suppose I am doing a course, I am doing, for example, say I'm doing BA music, and I'm interested in music a lot at that particular point of time. I am simply interested only in music. So I'm doing a BA music course. So as Professor Sahasrabudhe mentioned the other day, he was mentioning the possibility of doing a master's program, MTech program in engineering after a BA in music. So how is that possible? That is possible by taking adequate number of courses in engineering. I do my BA music. Okay, then I come to engineering. I do some necessary courses, bridge courses. I then do some necessary courses on the technicalities of music. So I add up the credit courses. So the music course that I've already done, that can also serve as the necessary credits for an MTech program ultimately. So total number of credits, when it adds up, say to 50% and above in that particular technical area, then I can, for example, get an MTech in, for example, some engineering branch related to music, that is. So that is also there. Or it might so happen that some students might want to do, say, course correction. What do you mean by course correction? Say I am doing MSc chemistry, and for some reason I feel that I should have done my MSc mathematics, or I am doing electrical engineering. I then come to know that the best thing for me could have been to do a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. So this particular NEP, the flexibility in that allows us to change course. So you can make a course correction with after accumulating necessary credits in that particular branch. We can, for example, get the desired degree in civil engineering, which I wanted, after changing course from electrical engineering. Now, suppose I have done, say, 50% of the credits from civil engineering, and I have done 30% of the credits from electrical engineering, okay, by taking minors and many other things. So I can also get a dual degree in civil engineering and electrical engineering by taking those additional credits, which then add up to make me qualify for getting a second degree. So these things shall happen. What shall not happen is the following. I cannot use the same number of credits, the same credits for obtaining 2 degrees. Okay, so I'll have to withdraw one of them, one of the degrees, then take the other. So this is what you have. Yes. Then what else I wanted to, yes. See, most importantly, we are entering into a stage wherein we would have a consortium of colleges. We can even think of, for example, if there cannot be a consortium of colleges in the neighborhood, we can also think of consortium of, say, civil engineering department of various colleges in the same geographical area or different geographical area. So we can collaborate, we can have a memorandum of understanding. Our students can take a course there. See, as you know, the suggestion from the committee on the special task force for the implementation of NEP is that 40% of the teaching will have to be online. Okay, so which means 60% would be offline, 40% would be online. So it would be a hybrid mode of education. So if for some reason I am unable to attend classes, say beyond that 60%, I can take to learning everything by online teaching. When I have a consortium of departments, what I can do is part of the experiments I can be doing in that engineering college, not the engineering college in which I am studying, but the engineering college which is, say, in my native place, very close to my native place, or it is in a city where my uncle is located. So I can, for example, do that practical part or that experimental part. I could do, for example, in my holidays in a different engineering college and collect credits for that. So lot of shake hands are going to happen between departments, between colleges, these things are definitely going to happen. And one thing is for sure, you should know that in the country today, there are 40,000 colleges. There are 40,000, not engineering, I mean, there are 40,000 different colleges. There are 1,000 odd universities. What is going to be the change scenario? We are going to see lot of colleges vanishing. We are going to see lot of universities coming up. So in place of Jyoti Institute of Technology, you will perhaps very soon see Jyoti University. Okay, that is a very, very likely thing in the scenario that is unfolding before us. So that's going to happen. So the 1,000 universities which are there in the nearest future, we could see, say, 5,000 universities. So that's what you have. Now, another thing that might unfold is there will be a great demand for teachers who can write textbooks, for example. National Book Trust of India, they have formed a new group wherein they would promote the writing of technical, content development for technical courses. So if you are good at writing books, then you are going to have a great opportunity to provide technical education through the mother tongue of the student. So mother tongue is going to take a very important place. So if, for example, I am a student, I wish to have my technical education in my mother tongue, I can take the technical education in my mother tongue. And most importantly, in order to see that I am not deprived due to my language inability in English, so English will have to be taught, empowerment will have to be done, and there will be no decline in quality so far as the technical education is concerned. Okay, see, certain words cannot be changed. Technical words, I mean. When we start implementing technical education in our mother tongue, it does not mean that all the technical words are going to be in my mother tongue. Okay, now just imagine me learning fluid mechanics in my mother tongue. That would be a very, very hard thing to do. We would have to bring a glossary of terms. You would have to bring out a new dictionary for that. And that would be a Herculean task. And it's not advisable, because in that case, I would not be international in my character. So if I have to remain relevant, then I need to know the technical terms as the world knows it. So that should continue. But we have a great opportunity to write books in our mother tongue. That is what you have. Now, another thing which is also possible in the case of NEP is, as I told you, from BA Music, you can go to MTech in some engineering branch that relates to music. We can also, there are also chances of many engineering colleges starting BSc programs. There are also many chances of some BSc colleges starting engineering programs. So if I wish, this was there earlier in a way. After BSc, IISc used to admit students to do bachelor's in engineering, and some similar thing is going to happen after my BSc. After taking the requisite number of credits, I shall be able to get my B engineering degree. And I think in the last talk that I mentioned about what is called as multiple entry, multiple exit. We have to gear ourselves to this. Okay, when I told you earlier that there is a need for institutional restructuring and consolidation. This is exactly what I meant. Now, the NEP wants us to prepare ourselves. When I say wants us teachers to prepare ourselves, to gear ourselves up in meeting the needs of the student. So what is it that we need to gear up with? We need to gear up with, for example, multiple entry and multiple exit. What are the needs of the student? At the end of 1 year, suppose due to some very serious reason, the student has to leave. See, providing an exit is not a great thing. Equipping the student at the time of exit to give him an opportunity to work, that is very, very important. We might exit him and give him some piece of paper which can be called a certificate or a diploma, but that is not a great thing. What is very important is he gets a piece of paper of value. So that certificate tells people that he is equipped with this particular skill set, he is equipped in this particular vocational talent, and he can be taken for a job. So when we devise our curriculum, see, each college, as I told you, is going to be autonomous. It's going to be a university in the near future. So when that is the case, I have a great opportunity here to design a curriculum that will help the student in a very, very big way, in a very practical way. So this multiple entry, multiple exit, one thing for sure, the first year must have some skill sets attached. Then second year, some vocational training is required, so that if he cannot cope up with the course, or for some reason he wants to leave the course and take it up later, he should be able to do it. So the design of the curriculum should happen like that. Now, for example, if I think I'm qualified to speak to speak about mathematics and not engineering. So what I mean by this is, suppose I design a curriculum in the first year and I simply bring in some topics which would not help him in getting a job. In the first semester and second semester, I include such topics. Okay, then what is the use of learning them? So we must be sensible in the choice of topics that we put for our first and second semester, and we must make it relevant to the industry. For example, bring in linear algebra, for example, in the second semester. First semester, teach him some calculus and equations, maybe some mathematical modeling, some programming, and something like that. Then that would help him in taking up a job. So we must make our courses meaningful. And another thing which we will have to do is package everything. Branding is the buzzword that is going to come out of all that we are going to do. We need to package our product. We need to display it. We need to market it. We need to advertise about it. Okay, so this is the challenge that we have before us in the coming years of whatever branch we are. We might be science, arts, commerce, engineering, medicine. We will have to do this branding of our item. That is for sure. We are forced to by circumstance to do some advertising and marketing. So now every brand product that carries some sort of what I mean, let me tell you clearly what I mean. Suppose I say that is Adidas. Is there a need to tell what it represents? Nike. Is there a need to tell what it represents? So the branding must happen like that. Suppose Jyoti University you have tomorrow. Jyoti University, whenever someone sees that name, what should come to the fore? That must be brand civil engineering. So that is the type of education which NEP envisages for everyone, and that can come only when people get attracted. That can come when children get attracted. That can come when teachers get attracted. Now, teachers of students of these days get attracted if the learning environment is a lively one. Now, why is it that our children, when they go abroad, they do much better than when they do the same course over here? They do well because the courses over there are easy paced. We don't stress them with, they are not stressed with too many things. They are taught to do things practical. They are taught to do things together. Okay, so team effort is what is promoted. Practical aspects is what is promoted. Doing something in a lively manner, okay, using technology is what is promoted. And that is what we as an institution must definitely consider. Okay. And outcome-based education is what the Washington Accord tells us. And Bloom's taxonomy, the several outcomes that you have, if it is really taken up in all seriousness, I think there is a lot to learn insofar as that is concerned. Now, as a result of NEP, what we are also going to have is concerns the faculty. For example, there will be a lot of training. There will be a lot of continuous development. Okay. Now, when you want to be promoted, it's not going to be routine promotion. There is going to be, for example, certain modules which the teachers have to complete in order to get certified as someone who is fit for promotion. And there will be such modules different in the case of undergraduate and different in the case of postgraduate teachers in the higher classes. And there are a lot of courses which will come up, whether you are civil engineering, electrical, mathematics, biology, or whatever it is. What we are going to see tomorrow is the introduction of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and many such courses, machine learning, for example, data analytics. We would see these different topics in the syllabus of almost all departments. So we should gear ourselves to that. As teachers, must learn these many other things that are required. And another thing which NEP wants us to do, I mean, teachers is there must be equity and inclusion. What do we mean by that? For example, there is a slow learner. That slow learner must be allowed to, for example, learn at his own pace. He must be assisted. And the common example that is given in the case of slow learners, for example, I mean, Tare Zameen Par was a very classical movie. We also know that Einstein was a dyslexic, and Abhishek Bachchan as well. There are so many great personalities who were dyslexic, and there must be special corrections or assistance available for slow learners. And for fast track learners, of course, there must be a different track. How to do it, so with a special task force will have to be formed in the colleges sooner or later, because all these things will have to be addressed. If we start preparing now, we can have a very effective implementation of NEP. And if we start implementation of NEP in good earnest, then the branding of our institution will happen very soon. And the growth of the institution really will depend on a dedicated band of such people who work in the spirit of NEP. So if you see the management, management would have to consider, say, vocational education. Management would have to consider a good facility for vocational education, for skill education, for teacher education. Okay. For example, what do we do? When a teacher comes to the institution, he is simply put in front of the students. Okay. Little does the management bother whether that particular teacher is prepared or underprepared or to take the students in a classroom, whether he or she has the necessary body language to face the students. How is the delivery? Some senior people can, for example, indicate to the junior faculty what are the corrective measures that can be taken. So all these things are definitely required in order to have an effective implementation. We must help students because of exit and entry at different levels. The paths from the first year to the final year of a degree course can be, for example, 4 years, or it can be 8 years. If one completes the course, then one can complete in 4 years or one can complete in 8 years. The final outcome should be the same. The amount of fees that the student pays will also have to be the same. So all these things will have to be done. And like, for example, what do you call that? You have the startups. Okay, you have at the level of the college, I think the government is promoting, especially the Ministry of Education. You must know that it's no longer called the Ministry of Human Resource Development. We call it as Ministry of Education. So I think they will be promoting the formation of idea labs. They will be promoting the idea of tinkering labs, for example, and many other things. And so there is so much that the college can do, especially a good private institution with all the resources that they have, with all the independence that they have, with all the autonomy that they have in every way. They can make an effective implementation of NEP and brand themselves and be leaders in academic education. Then the institutions definitely have their role to play there, especially the management, in facilitating, for example, a good academia industry interaction. And that can happen only when a lot of alumni of the college or the university, they come together, they work as a team, and a good rapport must be established by the college, by the faculty, with the alumni of the college. So these things are going to happen because there is going to be a sea change in our attitudes. We are going to change for the better. That is for sure. If we have apprehensions at the beginning, then ultimately we are the ones who are going to come forward and accept. Whenever a change happens, people are going to oppose. That is human tendency. So when you are persistent, when you are consistent in trying to implement a new thing which has good intent, then I think ultimately people would come forward and participate and work for the success of any program that is envisaged. So this is about the general idea about what NEP is going to be like, what we need to do, what is our role, what is the role of the college, and how to involve people from outside. So you have a lot of peer influence in this. Yes, this is another very important thing which I forgot. That is bringing in peer teaching. What do you mean by peer teaching? See, I'll tell you of one experiment which we did in Bangalore University. I made our senior MSc students teach Maxima to students of the junior MSc. The junior MSc students learned programming so well. They learned it much better than what the other students had learned from their teachers. So this goes to prove that peer learning is more effective. So we must promote something like this. So there must be a lot of interaction between the junior MSc and the senior MSc students. So the learning process, there must be a lot of synergy. Yes, synergy is the buzzword. There must be synergy between the departments. There must be synergy between the colleges. There must be synergy between the students and the teachers. So such activities must be on the increase, and it is only then that we can have a meaningful engineering program. So be prepared for something like this. If you thought that sabbatical leave is for teachers, mind you, we are soon going to have sabbatical leave for students as well. If you thought that assessment and accreditation was for institutions and assessment and accreditation was for departments, you will very soon see assessment and accreditation of teachers as well. So on the website of my college or the website of my university, it will be announced. Okay, so it will be mentioned over there that Pradeep G. Siddeshwar has got a score of say 2.5 out of 4, and my colleague will have a score of 3.9 out of 4. So just imagine what is the pressure that I am going to be in when I am going to have myself assessed, when I am going to be accredited. I'll have a number associated with me, which will be displayed on the website of the university. So performance will have to be there. If the teachers are good, they survive. If the teachers are not good, then it means that it is time they look for a different profession. And good days are definitely coming, golden days for Indian education. That's what I feel. And when someone said that the NEP is going to be implemented worldwide, I am not wonderstruck by this particular thing. I'm really proud of this, that I was at least able to see that something like an NEP came up during my own time in this country, in this great country where we all of us are born. Thank you very much. Now I would be happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Really, it was a very exhaustive, informative session on NEP. Sir, we have a few questions from the participants. I will read one by one.
Yeah, can you put it in the chat?
Yes, sir. One question is there from the online participant. I will read it, sir. Is the
Yes.
draft of new education policy of India hastily drawn?
Yes, it's actually, I don't know how many of you attended Shashi Tharoor's session, which was anchored by Shekhar Gupta of Times of India. And I was a part of that particular, I'm sorry, that is not the right wording. I also attended that session, and I had posed a question which said something similar. And the answer to that was, of course, he escaped that particular question, but I would like to answer this. See, you tell me which policy, whether education or otherwise, we have not done in a hurry. Okay, you tell me which policy we have not done in a hurry. With great planning, it is, I think, the first time that it has been done the way it has been done. Whether there is some hastiness in the framing of the policy, I don't think it is so. If you would have asked me the question whether there is hastiness in the implementation, I would agree to you. I would agree with you to a limited extent, because there is definitely a little bit of hastiness, tentativeness insofar as the implementation of NEP is concerned. But these initial teething problems which are there, that is, all those things are going to vanish when we see the ultimate benefit of a national education policy in India. I don't think it is hastily drawn, but there is a bit of hastiness in implementation, a bit of hastiness.
Thank you very much, sir. Next question is, if a arts student want to engineering degree, what would be the difference with the student pursuing the engineering credit alone all along?
Yes, that's a nice question. See, I am doing a BA music, as I told you, and I want to do an MTech in engineering, and that will be a course connected with music only. Okay. For example, I might do a course comprising of vibrations and waves. I might do a course on electromagnetic theory. So such are the thing, 4-year series. So all credits I would take up, credit courses I would take up that relate to music. Now, you think of this, someone doing an MTech after doing a BTech, the emphasis or what he learns, the content that he has learned would be totally different. I am not his competitor at all. I specialize in music. I specialize on the basics of music. I specialize on the engineering aspects of music. So I am not a contender with the regular MTech. It is only that a specialized type of MTech is being designed. That is the reason why I said the curriculum is going to be dynamic and not static as we are seeing today. There are immense possibilities. Yes.
Thank you very much,
Which
sir.
marketing media will be? See, you have to have your own marketing team. Why think of marketing media for this? You have your own marketing team. You have your own strategies. How to advertise, how to do well, how to teach well, how to, how to keep the welfare of the student in mind. Word of mouth is the best advertisement for any institution. That can happen only when the teachers involve themselves to that extent. Will a student having learned all the subjects related to various disciplines is eligible to apply? Yes. Now, this is a good question. See, we are all used to thinking in a routine way. Now, when I take credit courses under the NEP program, 50% of the credits, for example, I'll talk about mathematics. 50% of the credits that I take must be in mathematics, then only I'll get a degree in mathematics. I cannot simply study whatever papers I want and say I want a degree in that particular area. It is not like that. Okay, so when I seek employment pertaining to, say, some job which requires mathematics, then I have to have 50% of my credits at least in that. Okay, so fancy courses can be taken for my own benefit, but I should then not have the intention of seeking a government job. You just be watching, the craze for landing in a government job will vanish very soon.
Thank you very much, sir. We have one more last question from the...
Professor Keshav. Yes, sir. Professor Keshav, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm Dr. Gopashne here. Can I ask a question now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. Pradeep, sir, I'm Gopashne here, principal.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes,
Sir,
yes,
I
hearing.
have a question.
Yes.
Apart from an institution, am I required to register in abc.com for academic backup credits?
You see, you just wait for a few months, not few months, maybe 1 month or so. You will have all the information for you. There will be some registration. Each student will be registered. Okay, the institution will assist in that. And once the student is registered, that very same registration will be there in any institution that he joins. Okay, it's not like now. You will get all the details. It's going to come to the
Yes, sir.
institution
Yes, sir. Yes,
very
sir.
soon.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir. We have one more question from the in-house participant.
Yeah.
Now we are well versed with the traditional system of education. I thought NEP creating some confusion to set the new regulation policies. How much day it will take to settle down?
Let me take let me handle this question in a slightly different way. We are all used to some life, and when we have a different life, how much time does it take? Okay, so I'll answer this question. There is a newly married couple. They have a particular life individually. They get married. How much time do they take to settle in that life? Can you answer that question?
Yes,
They
sir.
would take time depending on their competence, their common sense. Okay, so this is exactly like that. New education policy is new. We are all new to it. We need to understand. We need to devote our entire time and dedication into learning many new things. Only then can we say that we are in grip of the new education policy, and the benefits of the new education policy can then be reaped. We should, as you sow, so you reap. That is the answer for this.
Thank you very much for answering all our queries, sir.
Yes.
The National Education Policy 2020 outlines the vision of India's new education system. NEP 2020 focuses on 5 pillars: affordability, accessibility, quality, equity, and accountability to ensure continual learning. Implementation of NEP will give importance to students' practical knowledge instead of just pushing them towards rote learning, and definitely it will promote value-based education. In this context, I hope all our participants got benefited from your valuable thoughts about new education policy. Thank you very much, sir. Once again, on behalf of AICTE, ISTE, and Department of Civil Engineering, Jyoti Institute of Technology, we are very much thankful to you, sir, for accepting our invitation even in your busy schedule. We expect same kind of support and association with our institute in the future also, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Madhusudan.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, Gopal Krishna. Thank you very much. Thank you, Keshav.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank
Yes.
you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, Sigona Tholi. Okay. Thank you.
ಸರ್ ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಮೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಸರ್ ನಾನು.
Okay. Okay. Right.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್.
Thank you.
Dear participants, the attendance and feedback link is available in the chat box, and we will share today's quiz questions within 5 p.m. And I thank all the participants for the support shown throughout the program. And exactly at 4 p.m. We have a valedictory function. I request all the participants to join for the program.